So,
how do you get credibility, Lockie?
Do great work, maybe. I think is my answer. You put me on the spot a little. But
we can't just like wake up in the morning and do great work. Or we can't wake up day one and do great work.
You don't get it at the start. Maybe that's a better way to put it. You get it after you've practiced a heap and failed a bunch of times and slowly gotten better and taken many leaps and felt vulnerable and all those things. And then at the end, you might get some.
How do you go with imposter syndrome?
It's a very much a ever present in my life. Yeah, ever present. I feel it every day, I think.
I can't imagine there's too many people that don't fall within that category. Maybe there's some people that are strong-headed enough or arrogant enough to think otherwise, but
I'd probably broaden it out to like just feeling scared. You know, like I think a lot of the time I just feel scared about things and I don't necessarily realize it, but I'm avoiding things because I'm scared of them. I've got some fear around it. And that's got a lot to do with, you know, things that you should do but you don't are usually based around some sort of fear, I think, at least for me. And so I think I've noticed that, and I think that's kind of part of imposter syndrome as well, is that feeling of, oh, God, I don't know what I'm doing. What does that mean, you know? And no matter how many times you get told that everyone feels that way, it doesn't really feel like it, you know, so I'm not.
It doesn't make it any easier.
That hasn't helped me that much. I think it's just a thing where you've just got to do your best to recognise how you're feeling in the moment and try and feel like, do you want to push through it or don't you? Make that decision. I don't know. I don't really have any good insight there for me. I wouldn't be able to give advice on it, that's for sure. Just trying to reflect on my own experience.
I was banking on you, mate, because you're going to solve all my problems. I think a big part of it, right, is comparison, and it's almost like a story of comparison. So when you're in year 9 doing, I don't know what you fucking do in year 9 maths, but algebra or something, you're comparing to like the whiz bang algebra guy in the class, who, you know, is getting 100% on every single test, because there's always that person in your class. And then like you progress your way through school, and then for whatever reason you decide to go into engineering, and you know, you're at university and you're in these mixed classes doing, I don't know, calculus or something, and you're actually comparing yourself against, say, some of the best engineers in your class, and then you're comparing yourself against, there's probably maybe a couple of like maths degree people in there as well, studying maths degrees. Not to mention that guy that might have been studying maths back in year 9 algebra has now gone off and he might be studying something completely different. He might have gone on to do outdoor education or something, and he has nothing to do with maths now, and you've probably even surpassed him. So your original comparison is like totally fallen over. And then for whatever reason you decide to continue to study maths and, you know, and move out into like a postdoctorate thing or like a PhD in maths. And now you're comparing yourself to like these professors in maths, and all the way along you're still feeling like an imposter because there's always someone that is better than you, because you're comparing yourself to a different group of people every single time that you progress your way along the journey yourself. And I think that's certainly a way that I see imposter syndrome. You kind of just keep resetting the benchmark no matter where it is, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and it's hard to recognize that you've actually gotten better as well.
Yeah.
If you don't make some time for it, I feel like that. Yeah, that's quite insightful. But it kind of shows your example is, this is something Seth talks about around getting through this and doing your work as art is that, Stephen Pressfield-esque, you don't need to feel like you're in the right creative headspace to do it. You just got to do it. You show up and do a little bit. Doesn't matter if it sucks. The win is the story you need to tell yourself is I've won because I did it, my work today. And another interesting thing that you've noted that I actually didn't pick this up. I must have missed it in the book because it didn't stick with me, but it's so good, is whoever fails most wins. There is a little bit of nuance to this. It's a lovely little catchphrase, but
could have almost been the catchphrase. What is it? The whoever dares wins. What was that show?
Who Dares Wins, Mike Whitney.
Who dares wins.
Yeah. No, that was great.
Mate. You're straight onto it.
Oh, well, that
can rely on you to remember a name.
That's it. So, but I guess it's like you've got to fail in a way that caps the downside. You can fail once and lose everything.
The scary reality of that is, mate, if you're in if you're in the space of like base jumping, a failure in that space can be the last failure that you ever make in anything, because it's a pretty high risk space. But the point of that is there's many ways that you could fail that end up causing ruin. And shit, we almost got through a full episode without mentioning him. But this is what Taleb always talks about, which is risk of ruin and avoiding risk of ruin being one of the most important things, and which is why like things like precautionary principle come into play, which means like doing little things or little that seemingly insignificant things that actually make a huge impact from a risk, from your own risk profile and whatever. So avoid failure. Avoid ruinous failure.
But if you don't put yourself in a position where you'll stuff it up, you won't really learn anything. When you were talking there, I was thinking like, is part of our issue that the biggest thing we're trying to avoid is dying, right? Most of our systems are set up to avoid dying. And do we treat other problems a bit like that too often? What is the real risk of what you're about to do?